Hello and welcome to the next lesson in A-Level Art. Today we'll be looking at how to analyse paintings and how to see more deeply. The meaning of art. Why do people create art? It's been a question that's been asked for a long time, and in most cases it's just a way to tell a story through visual representation. Apart from analysing the art with our senses, extra research is often needed in order to get good marks. So, apart from research and getting information through our senses, we're going to have to ask ourselves critical questions in order to analyse this art. So they are pretty much ways that we can take the artwork apart and then analyse it piece by piece. So the questions we should be asking is what? What is the art based upon? When? When was the art painted or created? Because the historical context does actually prove to be very important. Who? Who is the artwork of, and who created it? Because the person who actually created it, knowing who it was, can actually tell us a lot about the techniques that they used. Where? Where was it painted? Knowing where it is painted gives us an idea of sort of both historical context and sort of information about the culture of that location, which may actually have a big say on the perspective of the piece. Why? Why was it painted in the first place? Knowing why, if it has some sort of a rich story behind it, it can allow us to see the sort of techniques used and why it would complement that story. And finally, how? How was it painted? What techniques were used? What material was used? And questions like this. Art and history. Art and history are both linked. They tell us a story which allow us to then be able to analyse the piece in more depth, knowing the historical context. So, we're going to look at an example now about analysing history, and we're going to have a look at a sculpture called the Laocoon and his sons. So this is the sculpture. It's probably one of the most famous sculptures in all of art history, and it actually has a story behind it, which we're going to then analyse and look at sort of why it was made to look like what it does. So the story behind it was the man in the middle, who is Laocoon, was a famous Trojan priest, and in ancient times when the Greeks got sieged the city of Troy, they put a gift inside the city. Now everyone thought it was brilliant because they thought Greece were waving the white flag. This horse was a gift, and it was a sign of sort of them giving up. But Laocoon warned everyone and thought it was a trap. The Greek goddess Athena, acting as a protector of the Greeks, then punished Laocoon for his interference by having him and his two sons attacked by the giant serpent that you can see then in the sculpture. So we can see that this giant serpent is eating Laocoon and his two sons on either side. So the first thing that you may be thinking is they've actually drawn Laocoon to look quite sort of masculine, almost as if he looked like Zeus or one of the great gods. And now this is because the philosopher Plato believed that humans were actually what gods were, but just as in a step down to what they really should be. That the gods were like superior beings, but humans had a little bit of evil on them. So that's why when they painted them or they sculpted them, they made it so that humans were as close to the gods as possible in order to sort of celebrate the human form. So we can also take some other points away from this, such as the sort of snake intertwining in through all of them. We know sort of the power, what the snake really symbolizes as evil, and the fact that it's going in between all of them just shows how sort of the felony he made Laocoon. Now the sculpture is pretty much 8 feet tall, so we know that the characters are actually much taller than what they would have been back then. It wouldn't have been surprising if they hadn't been much taller than just above 5 foot. But still, the sculptor wants to celebrate the human piece, so as a result the sculpting techniques that result from that are in order to celebrate both how the Greeks deemed gods to be, or the Romans. We don't know if a Greek or a Roman had sculpted this piece, and how they're likened to gods. So just knowing about the history behind a piece of art can really help you analyze it and break it down, and then just tell what it's really about, and the senses that come to you, how it makes you feel, and what it makes you want to say about it. Okay, so this has been the end of the lesson. Next lesson we're going to be looking at how to be creative, and until then I will see you next time. Thanks for watching as always.